My name is Srishti and my teammate is Rashi, and this is group number 18. We are going to give our project presentation on the topic the commuter's triangle, which is a comparative analysis of the most optimal route selection using LLMs. The aim of this comparative study is to evaluate the decision making process between individuals and large language models uh, when selecting the most optimal route from point A to point B by analyzing factors such as weather conditions, traffic scores, amenities, and traffic data. Let's move ahead to the motivation. So, the first point is understanding AI versus human decision making. This is to investigate the differences in route selection between AI, which is the language model algorithm, and human choices. The second one would be the comprehensive factor analysis. That is, consider factors like weather, safety scores, amenities, and traffic data in route selection. Third would be trust and preference evaluation. To ascertain user trust levels and preferences in AI generated recommendations compared to their own choices. The fourth would be enhancing route selection mechanisms. The aim is to improve the effectiveness of AI in route planning in diverse scenarios. Moving to the significance and impact, the first one is the reliability and accuracy of AI. Determine the reliability and accuracy of AI in making route recommendations. Second is the user acceptance of AI recommendations. This is to measure how users perceive and accept AI driven route suggestions. The third is contribution to AI and transportation. So, we are providing insights into the integration of AI in daily decision making, particularly in transportation. The fourth one is guidance for future AI applications. We are offering valuable data for future development in AI driven navigation and route planning tools. Let's move ahead to the challenges we encountered. The first one is balancing diverse factors. We face difficulty in integrating and balancing multiple factors in route optimization, such as the weather conditions, the traffic conditions, the safety scores of different cities, etc. Second one is data integration and processing. We faced multiple challenges in amalgamating data from different sources for coherent AI processing, that is, creating a data frame so that the AI could process it. The third one is ensuring response relevance and coherence. Uh, this means ensuring that LLMs provide responses that are both relevant and contextually coherent. The fourth one is comparing human and AI decision making. That is, establishing effective methodologies to compare AI and human route selection choices. Moving to the novelty of our proposed solution, the first one is holistic route selection. So, unlike traditional models, our approach incorporates a wider range of factors beyond just distance or duration, such as weather condition, the traffic, and the safety score of those cities. Second one, flexibility and criteria optimization. Our solution offers flexibility in optimizing various criteria tailored for car travel routes. Third one, integration of advanced AI models. We used advanced LLMs for processing complex datasets and making route recommendations. Fourth one, enhanced data utilization. So the improved alignment and context awareness so this is the Python file which we use to make the data frame which we fed to the LLMs so that we can train the LLMs according to our prompts. So first we are installing the required libraries, and here are the key API keys which we are using in the file. Then coming to the function, so the below functions collectively allow you to convert between geographic coordinates and city names, find the nearest city to the given set of coordinates, and decode the polyline strings into set of coordinates. Like the lat long to city function takes the latitude and longitude coordinates and uses the here geocoding API to retrieve the city name associated with those coordinates. The city to longitude latitude function does the reverse of the previous one. It takes a city name, queries the here geocoding API, and retrieves latitude and longitude coordinates for that city. Then the Haversine function implements the Haversine formula to calculate the distance between two set of latitude and longitude coordinates. The find nearest city function, when we give the specific latitude and longitude along with a data frame containing the city data, this function calculates the distances between the provided coordinates and all the cities in the data frame using the Haversine formula, and returns the row in the data frame corresponding to the city with the shortest distance. The decode polyline function uses the polyline library to decode the polyline string into a list of latitude and longitude coordinates. It takes the polyline string as input, decodes it, and returns the resulting list of waypoint coordinates. The getRoutes function uses the Google Directions API to obtain multiple route options between a starting point, that is from the start to the destination. Then, coming to this cell, the get weather data from latitude longitude function takes the latitude and longitude coordinates, identifies the associated city, then fetches the city's weather data from the Open Weather Map API and returns the retrieved weather information in a JSON format. Then the city name and country code. It starts by obtaining the city name by using the longitude to city function, then converts latitude and longitude coordinates to a city name. Then it retrieves the city ID and gets the weather forecast. Using the obtained city name from this, we use the API to get the city ID, and using which using that API, we call to retrieve the weather data. If the request for the weather forecast is successful, it returns the weather data in a JSON format. If there's any issue with the API call, it prints an error message and returns none. Coming to the next cell, this function starts by mounting the Google Drive and reading the CSV file, which is the US crime data CSV using pandas. Then we do the data preprocessing, where we drop the specific columns from the dataset to focus on relevant information and handle the missing values by dropping the rows where city or state columns have missing values and save the preprocessed data in another CSV file. We then use this file to calculate the safety score of each city based on the crime count. The higher the scores indicate, the safer the city. Finally, the function returns a data frame containing each city, its state, crime count, and the calculated safety score. This function attempts to map the provided latitude and longitude to a city name, then looks up the corresponding safety score in the loaded crime data. If the city is found, it returns the safety score. Otherwise, it returns a default score of 0. The calculate central point function takes a list of points and calculates the central point by averaging the latitude and longitude coordinates of these points. It returns the latitude and longitude of the calculated central point. Overall, this code provides a way to calculate the central point from a line segment's start and end points, and uses this central point to fetch traffic data from the TomTom traffic API. The getPlaceTypeInfo function is responsible for retrieving information about a specific type of place, for example, gas station, rest stop, restaurants, etc., within a designated radius around a set of coordinates. It extracts the results related to the specified place type and returns them. The getPlaces data function aims to gather data about multiple types of places, after which it accumulates this information into a dictionary named places data, mapping each place type to the count of places found within the radius around the provided latitude and longitude. Overall, these functions help us to fetch and organize data about various types of places nearby a given location using the Google Places API. The parse route data function is designed to process and extract essential information from the JSON response obtained from the Google Directions API for multiple routes. It begins by determining the total number of routes available in the provided data, then initializes an empty dictionary, which is route data. Then it iterates through each route, parsing and extracting various key details for each one. In summary, this function organizes route specific information obtained from the Google Directions API into a structured dictionary, allowing easy access and reference to details for each individual between the specified start and destination points.
Hello, I'm Rashi and I'll be explaining the code for the data prep from this point. So the first is the provided Python function parse weather data, which is designed to process a response from the open weather map API, which we had explained before, and compute the average weather conditions for the next 24 hours. So initially the function extracts a list of forecast data from the input weather response and filters this list to include the forecast for the next 24 hours only based on the timestamp, and then it aggregates data for various weather parameters like temperature, wind speed and direction, cloud coverage, temperature, minimum and maximum pressure, and humidity. So it calculates the sum of each of these parameters across all the forecast entries. After summing these values, the function calculates their averages by dividing the total sums by the count of forecast entries in the 24-hour window. So this gives us the average for each of the parameters. Additionally, the function counts the occurrences of different main weather conditions within the 24-hour forecast. It identifies the most common main weather condition during this period, which is determined as the average main weather condition. And this is done in order to aggregate the data a lot quickly, because the API returns the response in the form of every hour. So the finally it populates a new dictionary called new dict with these calculated averages values and the most common main weather condition. Now moving on to the next function, convert route data to DF. So this function takes a dictionary route data as input and converts it into a pandas data frame. It iterates over each route in the route data, extracting the route ID and the pairs of the latitude and the longitude, and creates a dictionary for them. These dictionaries are compiled into a list flattened data, which is then used to create and return the data frame. And this data frame essentially flattens and structures the route data for easier analysis moving forward. So here we are starting to build the data frame. So we take the JSON response for the latitude and the longitude from the given functions above, and we parse it and add it to the route df data frame. Next, we make use of the weather data that we have taken used before, and here we have introduced different columns in the data frame like average temperature, average wind speed initially, and then we have populated them with the data coming from the API, which is in the weather data for each of the parameters. And then moving on, this is a function which populates the data frame route df according to the traffic data which was obtained earlier using the TomTom API. And similarly, as the weather data, it has we had different columns like free flow traffic, current traffic, and then populate them with the traffic data response obtained. Now we have just displayed how our data frame looks, the route df, with the different columns and the values obtained from the APIs and the functions. Now we are converting the weather data into the data frame, and we are calculating the rest stops, the gas stations, and the restaurants which are obtained by the Google Places API, and then populating them into the data frame. And in the end, we calculate the safety score using the column for the latitude and longitude in the data frame, and then adding it as the last column in our data frame. And eventually, we are transferring it to a CSV file called route CSV. So hi, so now I'll be showing you the front end which we have developed for a project. So the front end we have utilized HTML as the template and used the CSS for styling, and then we have used the JavaScript for the functions for the as a script for passing into the HTML, and the Flask API for connecting in the backend Python notebook. So as seen here, we have typed in a source and destination. Source is Los Angeles and destination is New York. And now when we press the get route button, here it's loading right now. Yeah. So here we are provided with three routes, which we have taken from by applying a function on the front end code only using the Google API, which provides us three routes between the source and the destination. And for to make it easier for the user, we have marked them with different colors, with route 0 being in blue, route 1 being in red, and route 2 being in green color. Now, for the user to evaluate which route to take, he will press each of the button for the responses from the three LLMs that we have developed. So, on pressing the GPT-3 response, the user gets that route one is the most optimal route along with the analysis that has been provided. Now, if he wants to take a look at the Llama 2's response, so it can be seen that Llama 2 has also provided a deep analysis and presented the user with route 2 as the most optimal route. Similarly, for Palm 2's response, we'll get a an answer which for the user for which route to use according to the Palm and the analysis. So based on the different responses, the user can decide on his own preferences which route to take. So I'll now be explaining. So this is the code snippet for the LangChain OpenAI that I have used for implementing the LLM. So basically, just a quick intro about LangChain. LangChain is a framework for developing applications powered by language models, and so it has various applications like being context aware and context aware. And this is the application that we have used in a model by giving the LLM textual prompts, which gives us the required responses. And so LLMs are a core component of LangChain, and LangChain doesn't have its own LLMs, but it provides a standard interface for interacting with different LLMs. So this LLM that I have, this is the code snippet for the OpenAI LLM that I have used, GPT-3. So so the first line helps us in installing the LangChain client package, which is the command line interface for LangChain. The next, we have imported various classes and functions from the LangChain library and its submodules, like yeah, submodules like prompt template, LLM chain, and chat OpenAI, and create CSV agent. So these are used for creating and configuring language model agents, defining their types, and integrating them with external tools like CSV files. So now the pip install OpenAI basically installs the OpenAI Python package, which is used to interact with the OpenAI's APIs. Next, we have defined an OpenAI API key, which we get from the official site. And the next is it creates the create CSV agent. So basically, it creates a LangChain agent that interacts with the CSV file. This agent is configured to use the OpenAI's language model, specifying the API key and setting the temperature to 0, which means it will generate more deterministic and less random responses. So this is just a sample of just testing if the CSV file has been actually loaded by the LLM. Now, this is the data description that I have provided. So this is a multi-line string that describes the data structure for a hypothetical data set about roots. And this is the data structure, and therefore all it contains all the columns that we have in our data frame, which we took from the previous Python notebook and executed, and we are passing it for this LLM. Now I have defined a prompt as given, and this string defines a prompt for the language model, asking it to analyze data on various routes based on several factors. So in this function, just to calculate the response time, I have imported the time module, and then the start time and the end time helps us in calculating the response time of the LLM. So, to pass the LLM, the prompt and the data script description, we combine the data description and the analysis prompt into one string as the full prompt and use an F string for formatting. And the agent or run full prompt basically executes the agent for the combined prompt and triggering the language model to process the request and print it for our use case. So, as shown here, we can see that after giving the prompt, the LLM, the OpenAI GPT LLM, analyzes every aspect and all the columns from the CSV file, and finally returns us the most optimal route by providing a detailed analysis of why it has given us this route. And we can place similar prompts, like if we have to just take the response based on weather conditions, so we can do the same, and it has returned route 0 just based on weather conditions, which is contrary to the earlier response of the fully optimal route. So this is the code for the Llama LLM that we built. So in Llama, we utilize the Pinecone, which is the vector database where we can store the large data file, And the replicate is where how will we apply the llama model from a chatbot. So in the initial statements, we have just imported the langchain packages and libraries like replicate, pinecone, character text splitter to splitting the text into smaller parts based on character count, Hugging Face embeddings, which is a popular repository for machine learning models. So we'll be using a particular model from Hugging Face embeddings. Then we also import the conversational retrieval chain, which combines the conversation and helps us in maintaining the chat history. So now this is the API key for the Pinecone as well as for the replicate API. In this line, we have loaded the CSV file. So this is the function which is given by the replicate. So the text splitter basically splits the whole data into smaller chunks for the LLM to easily process it. So these are all the models, the Hugging Face embeddings that we have imported. And now here we are defining the LLM, and this is the model which we're using from the Hugging Face embeddings, and temperature and the maximum. So the temperature is relates to the precise responses that we get, and the conversational retrieval chain, it actually makes a history chat history kind of thing where for the consequent responses it can utilize the older responses. And now here we have given the a prompt, a query. So the query will appear as a text box where we have entered this query, and as a result, we are getting these responses after the processing. And similar to the OpenAI LLM, we have calculated the response time based by importing the time module. So as you can see, it analyzes properly and gives us the optimal route according to its analysis. And similarly, we can do the same for by considering only the weather and the traffic conditions. So now I'll be showing the Palm API that I have utilized as the LLM to get to just for the comparative response as compared to the previous two LLMs. So this also has the same kind of structure where we import the necessary packages, the Palm, and just initialize the API key. And similarly, the retrieval queue and text loader for loading the CSV file, and the text loader for the chunk size. We have used the Hugging Face embeddings model called All Mini LM for this task. And similarly, all these are the various installations using pip command. And here we have loaded the CSV file, the route CSV, and here we have defined the LLM and the conversational retrieval chain. And then we have passed a prompt requiring the response, and it builds actually a question answer chain where it keeps on retrieving the information from the previous responses. And here we get the final response, which is that is route 1 based on its analysis for the from the data obtained. So after the code walkthrough, we go back to the PPT where I'll be presenting the case study. So the objective was to assess the decision-making capabilities of the three LLMs as shown and the comparison of the responses from the data given to them. And we have taken into account the human preferences by formulating a Google form and spreading it for user survey, and then taking the responses from them and analyzing for the comparison. So the study design is that they were, as I explained, the Google form, they were given detailed information on the three different routes, and they were asked several questions as to like which route would they select, which conditions according to them are most suitable, and so on. And so there were 18 individuals which gave us the initial responses, and each participant received the same data set and route details as the LLMs for a fair comparison. So for the process and feedback collection, we collected the responses, and from the pie chart, we obtained actually a percentage of what route was most preferred by the users, and they had a structured questionnaire and factoring preferences. So based on the user survey analysis, the users, the majority of the participants favored the route recommended by route one, that is GPT 3.5. And moving on, the conclusion. Coming to the conclusion, GPT 3.5, Llama 2, and Palm 2 offered varied approaches for route optimization, highlighting unique strength. And the user preference alignment actually aligns with our with the LLM response, and the users preferred GPT-3 as giving the most yeah, for the as giving the most optimized route to be utilized. And so it showed us the superiority of GPT-3 in decision making. And the study provided a comprehensive analysis of the AI models in route planning, considering a wide range of factors like traffic, weather, and safety score. So, for the future work, we'll investigate the combination of multiple AI models to enhance accuracy and robustness in route recommendations. We'll further improve the precision of AI driven route selections by fine tuning model parameters and incorporating real time data. Moreover, conducting studies with larger and more diverse participant groups to gain deeper insights into user preferences. And lastly, we'll continuously refine the models for more accurate and user aligned route recommendation based on the user feedback that we'll keep on getting. Thank you, and that's all for our project.